I've definitely said this in videos before, but companies this big always, whenever they make any public-facing decision, especially acquiring a company, but any product decision, they always will be ready with a public-facing reason and a behind-the-scenes reason for why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And both can be true.
We're going to talk about everyone's
Dre.
favorite company. What?
Beats by Dre.
Again? Meta. Not Meta in China. Meta.
Meta.
The company.
Wow, we're doing segues everywhere in this
I don't know if
episode.
it's a segue if it's this far after that.
I
but
count it.
I'll call it probably Facebook for most of this because a lot of what we're going to talk about is in the Facebook days.
Which is so funny.
It is. They're in the midst of an antitrust lawsuit in the U.S. In fact, this week, Mark Zuckerberg is taking the stand to defend himself and his Meta company against the FTC. And we're quickly going to talk about it because it really reminds me of when we talked about the Google antitrust case. But if you want like the real in-depth live coverage of it, Lauren Feiner at The Verge is always the one who's down in DC covering all of these cases. And I'll link it in the description, but she has this great page that's just like pretty much everything about this in order. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to dive into it, she's the one to go to. But so what they're going over right now in the court case is if Meta Facebook was creating scenarios where they'd stifle competition versus Facebook and, antitrust, monopoly. So the two main things it seems that they're focusing on is purchasing Instagram, which they did for $1 billion in 2012, and also purchasing WhatsApp for $19 billion in 2014. What we're discovering during this time is a bunch of leaked emails, which is always the fun part of these cases. And a lot of them seem to be done, or a lot of the things we're seeing is that these purchases were made to quote unquote neutralize the competition, because at the time when they bought Instagram, Facebook was working on a camera app and they were doing a lot of photo stuff. And Mark Zuckerberg in an email just said it'd be better to buy them. In fact, there's an email in 2008 that has been referenced a bunch of times already this week where he literally just says it's better to buy than to compete, which I feel like that quote in an antitrust lawsuit case is
that's
pretty damning.
Pretty straightforward. My take on this, it feels like we have one of these cases like every year.
Indeed.
Yeah, we do. I've definitely said this in videos before, but companies this big always, whenever they make any public-facing decision, especially acquiring a company, but any product decision, they always will be ready with a public-facing reason and a behind-the-scenes reason for why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And both can be true at
Right.
the same time.
Right.
So I don't know. If you're Apple and you're removing the headphone jack, for example, universally everyone's like, "Wow, they're doing that to just like
Sell
charge
AirPods.
wireless, charge for wireless headphones." But also up front, they're saying courage, and they're saying things like more room inside the phone, etc.
Right.
Both can be true at the same time, but you might feel a certain way about one of those reasons. This is like we are seeing very blatantly the behind-the-scenes reason for Facebook acquiring Instagram. It's better to buy than to compete. Okay, well, there it is. But also the public reason is things like, oh, there's so much competition in the video space and they do well with video and we're never going to be as big as YouTube, but this is our chance at being YouTube's competition, whatever. They're all true at the same time. It's kind of like, Ellis might appreciate this, SGA deserves MVP this year. He deserves it.
Wait.
He's on a 68-win team, historically good. He's led the league in points. I think he's top 3 in steals.
Yeah.
He's an incredible defender. He's just having a historically good leading campaign on a very young team. Best player, best team. He deserves MVP.
Okay, I like that argument.
Jokic deserves MVP this year. He's averaging a triple-double. He's had a historic statistical season. His on-off splits are ridiculous. Without him, the Nuggets are a basement dweller team.
Yeah.
He had a 60... 2010 game or something crazy this year. Like he clearly deserves MVP.
Can I ask which one's the monopoly in this analogy?
I'm saying both are true at the same time.
What is SVG?
SGA. I thought it was an
file
audio company.
SVG is a
Well, I thought that's what you said.
SGA.
SGA is an
Is the
NBA
RA.
player.
MVP?
Wait,
He's a player? He's not an
okay.
acronym?
Back up. Rewind.
Yeah.
The NBA season just ended this week,
Oh, really?
and at the end of the regular season,
Did someone win?
Well,
Not
it's
yet.
the regular season. Then the playoffs are going to start, and all the best teams will compete for the championship. But the regular season is over.
Okay.
And once the regular season is over, all of the voting for the regular season awards happens. So about 100 media members, coaches, etc., get ballots and get to officially cast ballots to vote for who they think should win each award. One of them is the MVP.
Okay.
And this regular season has been one of the tightest MVP races ever because typically there's kind of one runaway historic, like this guy had an amazing year, give him the MVP. I don't want anybody else considered. Somebody else might get a few votes here and there, but it's got to be this one person.
Right.
This year, there are two players who, if you ask those teams' fan bases, this guy deserves it. I don't want to hear it about anyone else. And that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is Nikola Jokic on the Denver Nuggets.
Who was the guy that did the thing where he did the multiple things
That
that's
was
hard
Jokic.
to do at the same time?
I was telling you about the 30-20-20 game.
Yeah, we talked
That
about
was
that.
Jokic this year. He had a couple historic games like that.
So it should be him, right?
Historically great player, and he deserves it. Yeah.
Okay.
He deserves it. I guess my tangent here is just to get back on track is both things are true at the same time. And even though I
Jokic.
might like one of the arguments more than the other, you can kind of just assume they are both true.
And that's what court is for.
Yeah, so court's going to
Yes.
decide. Court's going to decide if one of those reasons is unfair or more true than the other, or whatever. So that's. I think they will find that yes, there were anti-competitive motivations behind a lot of those things. What do they decide to do about
I
it?
think the super TLDR version is they're the FTC is trying to prove that they're taking up they've got way too much of a monopoly in the social media space, especially with buying those two. And it's weird because back then it was kind of to stifle and neutralize them. Now that's weird to say because WhatsApp and Instagram are like two of the largest social media apps, but it's still all owned by Meta with Facebook.
I mean, Meta's thing has always been let us buy you or we will destroy you. That has literally been that's always been their thing.
Here's a question though: when they bought Instagram, it wasn't nearly as monopoly-ish and massive, and now it is. And so they've grown it into this thing, and kind of similar with WhatsApp. It was huge already, but now it's even bigger.
Yeah.
And so are they more like punishing for successful growth of those companies, or were they buying their way into a guaranteed monopoly back then?
What could happen here, though, which is why I think it's similar to, remember when the Google antitrust won, they might have to get rid of Chrome.
Which is still possible.
It's still possible.
Yeah.
This could end in the sense of Meta getting rid of, or having to get rid of WhatsApp or Instagram.
Yeah, which is also ironic because there was another email that surfaced where Zuck said, maybe we should spin off Instagram into a separate company because historically companies that are separate from the giant companies actually grow more and do better. And he had said that a number of years ago in an email, and now he is defending why they shouldn't have to do that.
This is litigation between a government and a company worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So who knows when we'll see a result from this. But I think it was interesting to bring up because we covered the Google stuff. And again, there's lots of other reporters dealing with government processes and court cases like this that get really deep into it.
Yeah.
And I highly suggest
Yeah,
following them.
can I throw to an article that I thought was really, really good about this exact topic?
Sure.
Do it.
It's a Wall Street Journal article called Inside Mark Zuckerberg's Failed Negotiations to End Antitrust Case. It's in the Wall Street Journal. It was written by Dana Mattioli, Rebecca Ballhaus, and Josh Dawsey. And there is one really baller quote in it from former former head of the FTC, Lena Khan. And that is, Mark bought his way out of competing, so I'm not surprised that he thinks he can buy his way out of law enforcement too. Bar. Also, I was thinking about just like Meta's whole thing being like, what do you mean we're anti-competitive? Like, we're just doing business stuff. And I think two sort of unrelated things that point to like, okay, bro, is I don't know if you remember all those news stories in Wall Street Journal and also weirdly in like New York Post about Meta engineers in 2022 and 2023 being hired and explicitly told to do nothing so that they couldn't work at other companies.
I mean, every company.
That's like a
Silicon Valley
huge
does
joke
that.
in the Silicon Valley show.
Yeah.
It is, but also like, come on. And then also, if you go to Evan Spiegel, CEO of Snapchat's LinkedIn, his bio says VP of product at Meta.
Yeah, which
because
is
they
funny.
just steal so many of Snap's
It is very
ideas.
funny. He did that a few weeks ago, yeah.
Thanks for watching that clip. Please like and subscribe before the tariffs come in, and it might cost you more to do it. Or we'll get 145% more likes and subscribes if you wait till after.
1 like equals 2.4 likes. 2.45 likes.
I like that.
Did you?
Subscribe.